Where are we going? Sri Lanka. 2 weeks in a tuk-tuk. Awesome. That's absolutely nuts. Any plans? No. Lonely Planet guide. Rough idea of where we're going? Let's crack on. Arrived in Colombo about 8:20 local time. Everything stepped into crazy Sri Lankan time. Mad queues at immigration and age for the luggage to arrive. But our driver from Less Than Taxi was there waiting for us at the airport. A quick hell-raising trip straight to tuk-tuk rental into Negombo Beach.
Doing a driving lesson.
Then the fun started. So bear in mind that our body clocks are saying it's 4:30 a.m. We've had limited sleep and we're straight into a hands-on tuk-tuk lesson. After a very welcoming initial meeting and some very, very strong coffee, we were issued our own Sri Lankan driving licenses and were shown how to do basic repairs on our very own Kermit the Frog. Our incredibly patient instructor showed us the ropes and even gave us a whole spare kit of clutch cable, spare wheel, jack, little toolkit, just in case anything should go wrong. Mrs. Dude was kind of pooping herself before the lesson, but afterwards she was shifting like a pro. A few hours later, Mrs. Dude, Kermit and I are let loose on the A3 through Negombo. Max speed limit 40 kilometers per hour, dual carriageway with trucks, buses, livestock, dogs and all sorts. People have asked us how did we have enough space in there for all our luggage for 2 weeks. Well, we managed to take one carry-on that sat on the back shelf, another carry-on that sat on the other side of the back shelf, my big rucksack, 2 handbag rucksacks, and a large whole bag that sat on the floor, and of course space for Mrs. Dude. All of this wrapped together with one cheap little bike lock that we picked up from Amazon. Checked into Cloud9 Hotel in Negombo. It had aircon, it had a pool. What more do you need? Day 2. After a pleasant rooftop terrace breakfast, we headed east towards the hills. The main road, the A1, was a bit of a drag, so we detoured off through some pleasant villages surrounded by paddy fields and palm plantations. We were heading towards Ambuluwawa Tower, somewhere which we had seen someone else talk about on YouTube. Going off the main road, we came across this huge golden Buddha statue and shrine in the middle of nowhere, and it wasn't on any maps. Turns out it was only inaugurated last month, so this was a fresh Buddha. We had to stop for snacks on the way, a typical street vendor who was selling fried dal cookies and vegetable samosas. Yum. We headed along the back roads up into the hills where Mrs. Dude took turns driving. As long as there were no buses or trucks, it was all good, but there was the odd mad dog that ran across. We stopped at the Ambulluwawa Resort Cafe for a watermelon juice and just realised how high up this tower was. The road was getting quite steep now. We were talking second gear type steep for 14 kilometres all the way up to the Ambuluwawa Tower. At the bottom of the Ambuluwawa estate, or area of biodiversity, we were approached by a couple of tuk-tuk dudes who shuttle tourists up the end 2 kilometre climb. He explained that we could drive ourselves up, but it's very steep and very narrow. Challenge accepted. Entrance fee paid, we set off at a sensible pace. Then it got steeper and a bit steeper, like first gear only steeper, and then the worst happened. On a narrow steep part of the road it stalled, and it refused to pull its way up the incline. Mrs. Dude had to get out and push, but luckily no one saw. This massive folly of a tower was built by some right honourable politician as his legacy, and it's a bit of a tourist attraction in its own right. You can climb up what seems like a million steps to the top. We got about halfway and realised it was already 5 o'clock and it was going to get dark at 6, and we still have an hour and a half to go. That was my excuse anyway. All 5 main religions are represented here in architectural form with regard to the outbuildings. It's quite quaint, but a bit weird. When we pulled up earlier, the car park was full of monkeys. Obviously, we've got rucksacks and pull-along cases all on the back seat, although all padlocked together, but monkeys are quite inquisitive little pests, so we zipped up the rain covers on Kermit and hoped everything would still be there later. Luckily, when we got back, The only evidence was a bit of monkey poo on the roof. We headed north towards Kandy, down the other side of the mountain, around some amazing sweeping hairpin bends. I thought this would be awesome on a motorbike, but not in this heat. Whizzing down these hills reminded me of an incident that happened yesterday. We were warned about how the police work will target tourists for speeding. There are two types of police: the honest ones who take your license, issue a fine, then you need to go to the post office, pay your fine, then you need to find that policeman to get your license back, and the others who just want a cash bribe. We were told to say no and ask for the post office penalty. Just as we were leaving Tuktuk rental yesterday, a police officer steps into the road and asked me to pull over. With a big smile on my face and looking very apologetic, he told me off not for speeding, but for overtaking too long on the inside lane, otherwise known as lane hogging. As I was more than 10 metres from the moped that I overtook, I guess they haven't heard of the 2-second rule here. Anyway, he said the fine was 2,000 rupees. I asked if I could have the ticket and go to the post office, but a little sweet talking later, and the officer was 2,000 rupees richer, and we were on our merry May. There was no way that I wanted to go to the post office and lose my license. Got to Kandy in the evening and booked into the Ambulluwawa boutique villa. And an evening wander was in order after being on the road for over 8 hours. We walked the other side of Kandy Lake, past hip and trendy bars and pizza joints, and found a dosa house, Balaji Dosa. Proper local grub and cheaper than chips. I mean, a masala dosa crispy pancake type crepe with the savoury stuff inside, and a tray of dipping chutneys for the equivalent of about $1. A slight miscommunication ensued, which resulted in us ordering 4 dishes for the two of us. Of course, no cutlery. Wash your hands, eat with your right hand, wash your hands again. Mrs. Dude made the mistake of ordering a vegetable rice and a dosa. Fried rice with fingers is not an easy task, but we had our fill, walked back around the other side of the lake, past the heavily guarded temple of the Sacred Tooth, while meeting many chatty tuk-tuk drivers and locals who wanted to say hello. Next up, we spent a day in Kandy. Laters, dudes!